Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is April the 6th, 2026. And what I want to talk about today, since yesterday was Easter, I want to point out that there's a deeper story with Easter than what is commonly known. And let me suggest rather than me go into great depth, I'm just going to kind of touch on a few things that may pique your curiosity. And if it does, that's good, because I want to lead you to a book that I use regularly, written by Dr. Daniel Condren at the School of Metaphysics. And it's called The Universal Language of Mind, Matthew Interpreted. Now, for this lifetime, as I understand it, Daniel Condren had already stored in subconscious mind. He already had an understanding of language of mind. So a big part of this lifetime for him is sharing what he knows about the language of mind, which is the picture language. And why I mention this is all the scriptures, all the major scriptures, were written in language of mind. Knowing that people were sufficiently, or not yet sufficiently developed to understand the deeper concepts, then things were expressed in the picture language. There would be something on the surface somebody could get, but the deeper meaning would require some work and some introspection and some looking within, some deeper understanding. It's something that was not, and this is why Jesus talked differently to his disciples than he did the masses. The masses did not have the discipline that the disciples were getting, like now the discipline like what I got at the School of Metaphysics. That's I feel that's what Jesus was putting his disciples through, and Jesus had spent from 12 to 30 years when he started preaching that we know about. He was busy in places like India, Nepal, Tibet, all of those places that were, and I've heard this verified from several different sources. So it makes sense that he was preparing himself to present to the rest of us how to get to know ourselves. And through language of mind, you get this better understanding. So Easter is built around death, and death in language of mind represents change from one form of existence into another. So his death is, and what he was set up to do, was to show us that once you connect with the real self and rise above all of these things, he had risen above the physical existence, and he wanted to show that the physical existence could not limit someone who had reached a certain level of existence within themselves, that the physical could no longer limit. And he showed that by rising up. And all of the Daniel Condren puts this beautifully in explaining the language of mind and on all of the for instance, the cross means the understanding of horizontal time and vertical time. The horizontal time is our physical experiences, and the vertical time is the learning we get from those experiences. So where the two intersect, this is what the cross represents. And the crown of thorns that he wore meant that, then symbolically, in language of mine, that indicated that he had completed all of his desires. There was nothing left to do there. That's what the thorn on the head represents control. So the thorns and the bleeding blood represents truth and all of that. So when you can see the story in pictures rather than just words, they begin to make personal sense. Personal sense. That's what experience does for you. And he was teaching, rather than the common belief, is that he wanted everybody to depend on him. This is not the truth. The truth has been buried by people who wanted to maintain control through religious practices. And they've done pretty good at that, because they teach fear, doubt, insecurity, limitations. The religion teaches all of that kind of stuff. Jesus wasn't teaching that. And if you go back and read what Jesus said and what he said to the Pharisees, it's the same thing religion today is. He would be talking to religion today. That's what it is. So religion has a use, and it's good for, and he understood that, because he wasn't trying to tear down the religion. He was just pointing out that you're on the wrong track here. There's more, but you got to look. You got to take personal responsibility, and through the many stories that he put forth, he was demonstrating how to rise above these things, and rising up as when he was in the tomb. The physical existence could no longer be in control of him, because he had risen above that. And him showing up and seeing the disciples later on and so forth, and the many stories related around that. Daniel Conran points out what the meaning of Mary and the different characters that are represented. He tells you what all that means, but it formulates a picture that presents itself, and the reason, Christmas is celebrate the birth of Christ. It was, for me, since I've had these studies and had 40 years practical experience with them, and I've grown a lot in this time. During Christmas, I celebrate the birth of the knowing quality in me, because Jesus represents that knowing quality. And this is what he brought into the picture, the knowing quality. And yet, 2,000 years later, people are still hung up on belief only. That's what John the Baptist represents. But the knowing quality replaced the simple fact of believing. That's why John the Baptist lost his head, the control. Prison represents that restriction we placed on ourselves. And this is still happening big time today. But each person can take the responsibility, and that's what Jesus was teaching. Since they didn't understand what he was teaching, and the leaders wanted to maintain control of the people, the religious setup, they took out of the Bible all of what referred to what all would lead people to the truth and away from needing them to interpret. So you don't need a go-between between you and God. It's all foolishness. Because you are as much an expression of God as Jesus was. Just a different one. And he was much more farther along than any of us. And so it was his job to teach the rest of us how to. And everyone on this planet, and beyond, I guess, has that capability. Because everybody was given everything in the beginning. So whenever you have doubts, insecurities, and woe is me, all that kind of stuff, look rather than going over and over what troubles you and creating more of what troubles you, look to see what you have to work with. I had an interesting experience just earlier. A lady and I went to see a movie yesterday, and we were talking some of these. Now, she's still stuck on the belief stage, and that's okay. That's where she is. But she's beginning to open up and wake up. And she had an experience. She just called me a little bit just a few minutes ago and told me that she thought it was because of the movie, and she saw there's some things that we both experienced together that showed up in a movie that her sister was telling her about, or it came to her attention, but it described the activity that some of the things we experienced yesterday, just as a part of the seeing the movie, which was a good movie, which she chose. I insisted on that. And so she's learning, and I was just coaching her and said, well, this is your soul communicating with you, patting you on the back, telling you that you're on the right track here. And that's what the soul does. So Easter is the event celebrating rising above the physical existence, which is what Jesus did, because by him coming back, he proved beyond a shadow of a doubt and this is part of the story in picture language, that you have the capability. He showed that the physical existence is there for experience, and when you're through with that, you're not attached to it anymore. And this is why people are all kind of screwed up about death, and I point to religion for that, because religion teaches the fear of death. That's crazy. I understand death, and I help people die. If you like, listen to my talk on this same spot where you found this, I help people die because I understand the death process, and I'm not bothered by it. And I can help people get ready to die. Because a lot of people are not ready because they're scared. Oh, and that's what they heard in church that made them scared. So and I don't want to bash the churches and religion and everything, because it's a necessary step for wherever people are, and everyone is on their own path, and everyone is in a little bit different place. There's no way to compare where two people are, because now we all got the same thing in the beginning, but we took different ways to relate to things and understand and uncover, learn about ourselves in different ways at different times and at different speeds. So no two people will have the same past understood experiences, those experiences that are stored in your own soul. And this is what I was pointing to the lady that we saw a movie together last night, and it was pleasant. It was about learning to depend on yourself, actually, the movie. And she's beginning to have experiences that are directly from her soul, just telling her that she's on the right track. Just continue what you're doing. You're doing good. So her soul is patting her on the back. this is neat. And I just pointed out as part of our conversation yesterday that she is in a good place because she's looking to see what can be rather than just getting caught up in the drama. And I was talking about a neighbor who's really just caught up in the drama and it just spinning the wheels as a result. And I was complimenting this lady, my friend, last night, that she is in a good place because she is waking up. Now, she was surprised to hear that. What do you mean waking up? So she's just beginning, and this is, and I've been spending my whole life waking up in different ways. And it started with my own soul shocking me with experience after experience when I was growing up, because everybody was thinking different than I was. And until I got to School of Metaphysics, it never dawned on me that I was hearing their thoughts back when I was a kid. That was just natural to me, but I thought everybody was doing that. And life is just interesting and amazing, amusing. Probably an offshoot of I am amusing. It's just interesting. The Easter, Christmas, the birth of the knowing quality in me. Easter celebrates my ability to rise above the physical existence, those limitations that are everywhere available in the physical existence. And you don't have to die, actually experience death, to experience these. You can do like, what was one of the characters of Jesus, a friend of Jesus, that said, I die daily. And so this is death, meaning change. You embrace change. That's what the guy was talking about in language of mine. So after 40 years of practice, and even 42 more years of wondering what the hell is, what that all is, I'm in a place to where I'm really appreciating the ability to rise above, as Jesus was teaching. Jesus was teaching that, and he even said as much when somebody bragged on him about his healing. He said, ain't no big thing. You'll do better than this. Because, see, he said, I'm just here for a little while, and then I go to the Father. The Father's a superconscious mind. The aggressive and receptive parts of your own superconscious mind. That's your inner authority. And when you start looking within and putting these pieces together, it's different than putting everything that's relevant way outside yourself. It's not outside yourself. You are an expression of God. Begin to appreciate it and look for things about you that verify who you are. And not to take you too far ahead, but I know about some of them, not all of them, but there's 144,000 different ways of thinking that we need to become familiar with that will give us clues to who we are in an overall sense. Now, Jesus reached this point to where he understood all of who he is. And so he had no more use for the physical existence. And you will reach this same place. He told us all that. You will do better than this. He said, I'm just here for a little while. And now I'm in a position I can give people in a similar way. I got people come talk to me and they have questions, and I can give them not really the answers, but I can point them in a direction to where they can find their own answers. And I encourage that rather than just say, well, don't expect anyone to tell you everything. That's the job of your experience. Or that's how you use experience so that you can understand yourself. So, and again, please, well, it's a choice. If you want a clear picture of what Easter really means and what Christmas really means, what the Bible itself really means, get a copy of Universal Language of Mind, Daniel Condren, as I suggested earlier. A used copy is fine. You don't have to spend much money. But I use 4 books, I'll just say. I use The Dreamer's Dictionary by Dr. Barbara Condren. I use The Permanent Healing by Dr. Daniel Condren. And from all the research done into mine over the last 50 years at the School of Metaphysics is listed in this book. So how your thoughts translate into your health, that's what this book is about. And then Universal Language of Mind, Matthew Interpreted, is how the dream language applies to scriptures. And then Dreams of the Soul, this is my favorite book, Dreams of the Soul, Yogi Sutras of Patanjali, also written by Daniel Kahneman. He was writing this while I was still in the school in 1988. I saw some of his notes on that, and that's another story. But I eventually got a copy, and this has been my favorite book for a long time because it shows you the steps. And just this morning, I had not really a dream, but a revelation. And I looked in this Dreams of the Soul, Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and it clarified where I am. And it was very valuable, and that's why I use it. And then I didn't stop with that. I went to Universal Language of Mind, Matthew Interpreted, and I got a similar picture from a different perspective, a little bit, but the same picture. And so it verified to me that, like I told a lady, you're on the right track. Well, I'm on the right track. And my soul keeps verifying this. And so I keep seeing opportunities for more growth. So the Easter event is there to remind us that we all have that ability to overcome the physical existence or to use it productively until we no longer need it. Check it out. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thanks for your time.